Hi, and welcome to another podcast with Hanaz Writers Limited. My name's Charlotte. I'm a Year 2 teacher, and I have an experience working in a nursery school for children aged 0 to 4 years old. If you haven't heard any of these podcasts before, then be sure to check out Hanaz Writers YouTube and Spotify channels. Don't forget to like and subscribe. So in today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about the way that people write things. I'm just going to have a little look at why some people might choose to handwrite things or why some people might choose to use a computer to write their work. Now, the first part of this podcast I'm going to look at is handwriting. So the first method, this one is something that we do all the time. It's one of the first things that human beings are taught as they grow up. We're shown how to make use of the language that we learn, our native language, our first language that we learn. We learn how to write messages to others, how to create cards for people, and show that we understand our words have some sort of meaning to them. So mark making and handwriting are actually very unusual skills. And it's actually amazing how human beings have evolved so much that we can use it in our everyday life. Animals do not mark make. So cats and dogs and birds and things, they don't mark make like we do. They don't use writing as a way to get their thoughts and ideas across to other animals. They use their voices, they use their body language, different sounds, tones and pitches. They show through their actions to get their messages across to each other. Human beings are actually the only ones who have developed a whole other language to be able to speak to each other and to write to each other, writing language down so we can share our thoughts, our ideas, our messages, create stories and poems and so on. And we pass it on to others, especially the younger generation, so that they know, all about it. But writing stories and telling them is one of my favorite things that I like to do. So as a kid, I would create different stories. I'd write them down. Sometimes I'd share them with others, and sometimes I wouldn't. I would just keep what I've written for myself. And I was a bit shy, so I wouldn't really want to share it with other people. But writing is a big deal in this respect. So human beings, we work on our handwriting skills from when we're little in nursery school up to when we're teenagers, up to our adult life as well. And some people, they have some really beautiful handwriting and they can create beautiful works of art and they can put that on display. This kind of artwork is called calligraphy. And it's just a way of writing letters and words in a pretty form so that's nice and pleasing to look at. I'm sure there's an ASMR sort of video somewhere of people just creating words and writing nice words, of course, but ways of them writing it. And sometimes the words can turn into other words and words just look really pretty when you see them. Some people definitely need to work on their handwriting. The chicken scratch. So it's the one which is just about legible and it's just about what people can make out what is written there. I think this might also be called the doctor's handwriting. And you have to have at least some kind of degree to be able to read what they've written sometimes. So nurses, I think, would be able to read their work and be like, oh, the doctor said this. And you're like, how? I can't read it. How did you get that from what you've written? But going back to what I was saying, handwriting is taught from nursery age. When kids are little, they're like from one years up. And they're taught to use different mark-making tools like chalk. We give them board pens, pencils, crayons, paintbrushes as well with paint. And we show them how to write, how to draw, how to create using these different things. There is a special way of holding the pencil. It's called the tripod grip. And that's when the pencil's gripped by your index and middle finger, and the thumb is used as a support to the base of the pencil, the back of the pencil, or the pen, or whatever it is that you're trying to write with. Then you're taught how to form letters and then characters, especially if you're in a different part of the world, that you need when you're writing your words, when you're writing your sentences, and you go through the whole process. I think in the Western world, Western part of the world, children are taught the 26 letters of the alphabet, letters A to Z. And we're shown how to write each of the letter. We're shown how to put the letters together to create simple words. And then we are taught the meaning of those words, especially if it's a word that we don't know. But you can have a word like cup, spell it as C-U-P, and then you're shown this is a cup. It holds water inside. You can use it to drink your water. And then the more you use it, the more you call the name for this thing, the more then the child learns, oh, this thing is called a cup and will forever be called a cup. And one of the other things that children are taught are their names. So we teach them how to spell it, how to form the letters of their own name. Then they learn their friends' names and how to write them. And then they can write to each other, make cards for each other, write letters and little cute gifts and things. And you know that this person is a friend and I'm going to write their name on this card because this is for them. So on. And after that, they're shown how to put the different words together and create sentences. For English, the sentence structure is a subject to verb and then the object. For example sentence, I could have the boy ran to the park. So then the children are taught how to write this. They are taught the meaning of it as well. So the boy could show a character of a little boy ran, and they show the verb of how to run to the park, and then they show the park, a picture. And so the children then again integrate the words to the meanings. So then they can create their own sentences, and they say, oh, the girl ran to the park, and they can change bits. Or the girl ran to the shop. They completely change the whole sentence. Or the boy ran to the swimming pool. So there's always a way of changing the words in the sentence, but you essentially had that main structure. So then they're taught to write those words into the sentence and then and they've already been taught how to write the letters. So then it's only learning how to write the whole sentence structure, and then they create that whole sentence. In the eastern part of the world, they use symbols and characters to represent their words. I guess in Egypt, they used to have hieroglyphs, and I think they still do as well. So it's like the characters and symbols. Each symbol represents a word in their language. So they're still giving a meaning to their word. They've just done it as a symbol rather than using the 26 letters of the alphabet, is what we have decided to do on our side of the world in the West. And in the East have decided, actually, we're still going to keep using our symbols. For example, in China and Japan and Korea, they had their own symbolic system. Each one has their own symbolic system, and each word has a different symbol connected to represent them. And the children there are taught how to write each character, put them together, create their sentences, and follow their own subject word order, which I think is very different to ours. So they could have a subject and an object followed by the verb. So it's a very different structure of way of speaking when you look at it that way. The second method that I'm going to talk about is using a computer to write with. Computers are the tools that humans have created, and we can use them to create and make things in turn. And there's lots of different things and different types of software applications that we have on the computer. And definitely some of these tools can help us if we are writers with our work. So, for example, the most famous one, Microsoft Word. This software can definitely be used to write novels and poems. I'm not sure what it's called on the Mac or an Apple computer, but I'm sure they have their own, maybe it's just called Apple Notes, or they have their own application. But it's basically, you open it up, basically a blank page, and you can just start typing away on it. You can type your words, you can create your paragraphs, your sentence structures, you can do everything that you need to write your assignments, essays, your stories, your poems, and so on. And then people quite like using computers to do their work on. And it's quite easy then for them to write a story, create a novel in maybe a few months' time, because they have everything saved on the computer. There's no need for them to look for it. If you handwrite stuff, sometimes you lose bits of paper, or you write something down and it doesn't fit with the rest of the work, and you have to go back and say, oh God, I have to read through everything. On the computer, everything is already there. You've written everything. You just flip from one page to the other. It's all there. It's all saved. There's no issues. If the writer is very quick at typing as well, they have a clear goal in their mind as to what they want to write, they know what they want to write, then they can get their work done really quickly. The computer is also great to fix mistakes, especially when there are parts that they don't want in the story anymore. And they're just like, no, this is rubbish. And then they just delete the parts that they don't want. And then they can just quickly rewrite the sentences without having any mess to clean or any strike throughs, using your pencil to cross out bits and then writing above it and writing next to it. And you still get that same thing. It's just on the computer, it's a lot neater because you can just delete what you don't want and then keep what you do. And it looks like everything looks neat and tidy. There's nothing crossed out. There's no extra bits added, and you don't lose your work. So the computer can also help you with your spelling and your grammar as well, especially if you're not exactly too sure that what you're writing, that this word is spelled correctly, or is this grammatically correct. So the computer then checks your work this way. After you've written it, they might highlight bits and be like, oh, this doesn't sound right, or check your grammar here, or check this spelling here. You get the blue lines for grammar, you get the red wiggly lines to say this is spelt wrong, and then you can go back and change the spelling. Unless you're intentionally spelling something wrong, then you can say this is actually okay. So the computer in that way is a support for writers and helps them to make their work look a little bit more professional, a little bit more polished. The computers are also great to give you access to the internet, computers and mobile phones. So you can look up different ideas and just fact check what you're writing. Especially if you're writing a story in a certain time period, then you can just quickly look on the internet for things and check that what you're saying is right, or what you can and can't say due to that time period, or whatever it is you're writing about. Especially if you're writing something factual or you want to add like an important fact, then you should definitely check it out just to make sure that what you've written is factually correct. So then, just looking at these two ways and methods of writing, why do some people use pen and paper and they handwrite things, and why do some people like to use the computer? Well, as I've said throughout this whole podcast, there's lots of different reasons why people choose to do these different things. People who handwrite their stories and poems, they might enjoy the physical action of using a mark-making tool to write their thoughts and ideas down onto a piece of paper. It might remind them of the times when they were at school and they were writing for fun or creating and just making things for fun. And it's nice. It's a nice thing to do. Writing things out by hand could also give people sometimes a sense of accomplishment, of achievement as well. It's a physical exercise, works out your muscles, your body, your arms, your mind as well, because you're thinking things really quickly and you want to get your thoughts written out on paper as quickly as possible. And you can only do it as quickly as you possibly can with the tools that you've got in your hand, and you're writing it on paper and you're scribbling it down. And I'm not saying that you can't get the same thing when you're typing and using a computer. Of course you can. You can. Some people enjoy the feeling of typing. They enjoy writing their work on a computer and seeing it on the computer screen. And that's also great too. It's not a bad thing. I think it just makes you feel like you're accomplishing things in a different way, in your own way. So you've written something on the computer, you're like, yes, this is it. And it feels good. You're also using your muscles. You're also using your brain. It's the same feeling. But you've accomplished what you wanted to do. Computers are also very good, as I said before, to help you change your work. You just highlight the bits that you don't want, delete it, then you rewrite it. You get your work done again, and it's a different way, or it could be a better way. It sounds even better this time. When you're handwriting things, as I said, you get stuff written on paper. If you get it wrong, then you have to cross it out, you rub it out with a rubber, or you sometimes use a whitening substance or whiteout. And then you have to use that to kind of remove the mistakes that you've made. But then you can still see the white blob where you've made a mistake. You can write over it again and redo your work, but you just know that, oh, that's where I made a mistake. Oh, that's where I wrote this wrong. Oh, that's where the spelling went a bit funny. So there's all these pros and cons at the end of the day. And I think that writers should choose what they feel comfortable with. For me, I still enjoy using a pen and paper. I still enjoy that feeling of writing, physically writing something out and having that what I've written there, it's available and I can pick it up and read it whenever I want. I think sometimes using a computer is great. I can make my edits and my changes, but then once I close the computer down, it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't then have it there to read all the time. And if I want to show someone my work, I have to get my laptop, open it up, find my work and say, oh, have a read through. And then you kind of obviously sitting there going, oh, I wonder what they think about it. So for me, I think I just enjoy writing, putting pen to paper, and it's what I feel comfortable with. If that's not what you feel comfortable with, then do what you feel comfortable with. But whatever you do, keep writing. It doesn't mean that this is good or this is bad. It's just people prefer a different way. People prefer things. People prefer different things. And we're all different at the end of the day. Unless you're very similar to your friend, but then you're still not very similar because you'll have different thoughts, you'll have different feelings, you'll have different ideas. So anyway, after all that, keep writing. Use any method that you feel comfortable with. Try both. Do the pen and paper. Do the computer work. See which one you prefer for yourself. Which one do you enjoy? And then just get started. You've got an idea, you want to write a story, just get on it. Get that paper, get that computer open, start typing away. I think that's what I would suggest for would-be writers out there. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. Let me know what you guys think. Which way do you prefer writing? Have you tried handwriting? Have you tried using a computer? Which one is it that you prefer and why? What do you think? Leave your comments below. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, then please like, subscribe, hit that button below. You can hear more podcasts from Hanaz Writers. We're on YouTube and Spotify channels. You can also follow Hanaz Writers on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The handle is at hanaz.writers. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, bye.